I'd like to call this meeting to order for the School Board of Baraboo for Monday, February the 9th, 2015, with roll call. Mr. Cummings.
Here.
Mr. McNevin.
Here.
Mr. Meering.
Here.
Mr. Mortimer.
Here.
Ms. Riley.
Here.
Mr. Vedro.
Here.
And Vodak here. Continue with the pledge. The flag's behind the counter by the clock. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I would entertain a motion for the approval of the board minutes of January the 26th as printed.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mortimer, seconded by Cummings. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Abstain.
Note Mr. Vedro's abstention. Minutes thus approved. Brings us to correspondence. I have one, and that is from Jack Megan, sent to me in regards to the school board and our district administrator search for a replacement, complimenting us for hiring from within and not spending money to go outside the district, and then a follow-up complimentary email in regards to our forthcoming decision. I will enter that as correspondence for the record. Mr. Meering?
Yeah, I have three correspondence. One was from Kevin Catterson, who sent us an article on physical education gym. One was from Luther Olson. It was just regarding a school accountability bill, SB1. And he responded to my note, basically saying that he agrees that we should not have letter grades, sticking with the same accountability scale that they have right now as far as our school report cards. And he also agrees that a single accountability test for all identities that are taking the test is what should apply, and is what he's going to be advocating moving forward. Very much appreciate that letter from Senator Luther Olson. And then I also received a letter from Bill Froelich, and it was regarding a recent letter that we received, an unsigned letter with no names attached. And he questioned the fact that we did not enter that into the public record. And I will respond to Bill Froelich, and then also we will probably review that maybe that we include that if the identity, whether it's the Department of Public Instruction or whoever it is, that certainly a name of who represents that organization has to be included in that. That's for further discussion down the road. So I'm entering those in the correspondence.
Okay, thank you. I'm not aware of any more board correspondence, administrative correspondence.
I received a letter of appreciation today from one of our substitute teachers, Herb Van Driel. Is that how you say it, Craig? And he appreciates all the assistance he received from our HR director in becoming licensed for the position and the ongoing support that the district provides for subs. The second correspondence is a thank you from the Baraboo Food Pantry for the monetary donation of $339. We have various groups student groups that fundraise for food pantry. I think that was middle school, wasn't it, John? Yeah, middle school group. Do you remember which group that was? Was it a TI group?
Yes, it was Lord Walker.
Okay. And I'm saving the best for last. Last year, Jim Langkamp applied and made a request to the J.J. Watt Foundation. And as you may recall, we received $6,000 for new football, softball, and track uniforms for the middle school. This year, he made an official request for football uniforms, and we just received a check in the amount of $3,600 for 80 football uniforms. So thank you, Jim, for doing that, and we're going to have new uniforms.
Any additional administrative correspondence? Hearing none brings us to the portion of the agenda entitled Public Viewpoints. Do we have anyone here for public viewpoints tonight? Do we have anyone for public viewpoints? Any public viewpoints? Hearing none, I'd like to move to staff and student recognition, and we have with us tonight Jennifer Schultz with some FFA students, and I'm going to turn that over to Crystal and Jennifer for a presentation.
Jennifer, could you make sure that everybody introduces themselves tonight too,
Yeah,
please?
yeah.
Thank you.
I'm Jennifer Schultz, the agriculture teacher. I've been here 4 years already, which is crazy, I know. So, what I put together is a little flyer for the board. I don't want to take up a whole lot of your time, so I know educators don't like to talk about, what we do, because it's just kind of an everyday thing. So, this kind of is a display of the things that our agriculture education program does. Yep.
Okay, and we are going to present. I am Marley Bonham. I am the FFA president. And these are my officers.
Yep.
Jay Thompson, I'm the secretary.
My name is Ashley.
Taylor Gerken, I'm the student advisor.
I'm Alexa Lindsay, and I'm the treasurer.
I'm Kelsey Brown, and I'm the sentinel.
All right, we went to National Convention in October and it kind of went into November. We went on a bus and went down to Nashville, thank you, and we went to the Country Music Hall of Fame. And these are just some pictures of us there. We toured it, got to spend a lot of time in there, and we learned a lot about country and how it's evolved throughout the years. And we also got some time to spend downtown Nashville, and so we got to go in like the shops and kind of see the local scenery. And then we also had a lunch concert with Buddy Owens, and he's a songwriter and he sings country songs, and he actually got an award in Canada a couple years ago, so that was fun. And then these are just some more photos from downtown Nashville. We went to like a big candy shop. We saw the Bridgestone Arena where some award ceremonies are held. And then at the actual convention, we saw Matt Boysick, which is a keynote speaker, and he was born without any arms or legs. And it was kind of like his journey through life and how he never gave up, and how when you're handed like hardships that, you can work through them and you can learn and make your life a little better through it. And then we toured the convention area, and we got to see a bunch of different booths from different agriculture careers. There was one from Busch Gardens that had like to do with veterinary science and working with exotic animals. There was a Bronco rider. There was tractors. There was what else?
Lots of stuff.
Yeah, there was a bunch of booths. And then that night we went to a Scotty McCreery concert, and the Springs opened up for them, so that was kind of like our relaxation of it, and it was a lot of fun. And then we went to the Grand Ole Opry, and we learned a lot about the history of the Grand Ole Opry. We got to see where the flood lines were when it flooded, and how like the community came together to restore the historical significance of the Grand Ole Opry. And then we got to go backstage and got to see all the fun things that most people don't get to see. And then we went to a tobacco farm, and it kind of went more towards like the farming part of agriculture. And he taught us how he's made a living working on a tobacco farm, and how he works through it each year, and how his family helps him, and what he does for agriculture and how it impacts the world around him.
So that was a little bit about our trip to Nashville and Louisville, Kentucky. Now we want to talk more about our chapter here in Baraboo. So first, what is FFA? Well, FFA is an intercircular organization, so we involve SAE, which you'll learn about in a little bit, FFA, our club, and then instruction, which is classroom time. So it prepares students for community leadership, personal growth, and career success through ag education and different aspects like that. So some classes that are offered by Mrs. Schultz is Equine and Exotics, Natural Resources, Wide World of Ag, Plants for Fun and Profit, Large Animal Science, and Greenhouse and Landscaping.
An SAE is a supervised agricultural experience. I personally have done 2 of them. One I do in babysitting and one I do in pig farm raising. An SAE in the classroom, every student is required to have an SAE program, and you have to have 15 hours of out of classroom hands-on work experience. An experience related to agriculture, science, environment, business, or technology. So you can put anything with it. You can have job shadowing, you can go work on your own farm, you can go work at Subway. You can do anything because it all relates to agriculture in some way.
So these are just some of the things that we do on a regular basis at FFA. So we have our monthly meetings, and then we have career development events, speaking contests, community service, fundraisers, and field trips.
Okay, so career development events, or CDs, are like a big part of us. It's a place where we can kind of show what we learned through ag and actually through FFA. So like livestock judging, vet science, ag mechanics, dairy science, agronomy, there's all kinds of stuff. But like livestock judging, all 4 of us are on team, me, Taylor, Kelsey, and Marley, and that's something like I look forward to every year. We've gone to state for the past 3 years together as a team, so I'd like to keep it going, and it really shows.
No pressure.
It really shows what everybody does, sending kids to state and stuff like that, how good we are and stuff, so.
Yeah, so we do speaking contests as well. We actually just had our regional speaking contest on Thursday, and our parliamentary procedure team, which is how we properly run a meeting, actually got first place, so we will be going on to sectionals March 10th. So we offer different, this year we had discussion meets, prepared speaking, and different things like that. Creed is something that the freshmen can do, it's a memorized, so we have a lot of people that are interested in different ways to speak.
We are really involved with the community. We do community service all the time. That's one of our big points. We do highway cleanup, Salvation Army, ringing bell, donating food baskets, giving free food drives for the food pantry, and a lot more.
We also hold fundraisers through our resales. We've done coffee sales in the past. It was like this little, we did this farmhouse sale. It was like sausage and cheese and pizzas and soups. And we also sell benefit t-shirts to like families. We've done Josh Bloom t-shirts in the past. We've done Thompson shirts to benefit the Thompson family. And we also do Kiss the Calf during FFA week, and that money goes towards a charity that we choose.
We do a lot of field trips throughout the year, like 7th grade Conservation Day and 8th grade Career Day and 3rd grade Rural Safety Day, where the younger grades can come out and have a day, and they can learn a little bit about agriculture, and they can find out what they want to go into when they're older. We also have some more fun field trips like brew games and Badger hockey games that are just kind of like a break for us, that we can, you know, take a break from what we do and go and have some fun and have a lot of bonding time. And then we also do corn mazes. We did that as a senior bonding thing. So it was a lot of fun. We made a lot of memories.
So National FFA Week is coming up February 21st to the 28th. So all week we have dress-up days, and on Thursday we have Drive Your Tractor to School Day. So if you drive past the high school on Thursday morning, you can see all the tractors lined up. And also on Friday we have an assembly where we've had hay bale tosses and milk chugging, and we have throughout the week in the lunchroom, students can pay for a teacher that they would like to kiss the calf at the assembly. I believe Mr. Billiston did it last year, maybe?
I think I just missed it.
Too bad.
So we always have a lot of fun with that. I know the kids look forward to seeing who can throw the hay bale the farthest. And then this is something in the works right now. We're still working with administration on this. So we would like to have FFA sashes at graduation, because FFA is an intercurricular organization and not just like a club. So we have just some different requirements that we would have, and again, we're talking with administration still, so if if they have ideas, obviously we'll incorporate them. So that's something to look forward to, hopefully in the near future.
So I just want to say that I'm really proud of this team. I've been with them for 4 years now, and we've grown up a lot together. So, yeah, so we are more than just, you know, it's more than just FFA. It's a lot. So if you have time, if you want to read the flyer before you go to bed, or if you have free time, I know you guys are busy. So it's just something that I put together just to show you kind of some of the things that we do in the program. So.
And you can see that Jennifer never sleeps. I mean, you are giving 110% of yourself, and you have since you joined the Baraboo School District, and you're providing wonderful opportunities for our students in the community. I didn't realize you were involved in that many fundraisers and giving back to the community, so kudos to all of you. Thank you for your leadership and for the students.
Thank you.
For you. I have honors for excellence. I want to thank you for your leadership and the way that you're representing the Baraboo School District in these regional competitions and out in our community. You're great role models for the other students, and I want to thank you for the service to the community. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank you. So we actually have a meeting, an FFA meeting to get to right now. And teachers, feel free to drive your tractors to school.
It's always good to have an exit strategy out of here, isn't it?
Brings us to reports, and first up is the driver's education presentation from CESA 2. And we have Mr. Kurt Schultz with us tonight to highlight what you were provided in your board packet, which is an alternative to the program we used to offer, and an option for us in the coming years.
Thank you. My name is Kurt Schultz, and I'm the director of the driver's ed program for CESA 2. I've been doing the driver's ed program for CESA 2 for about 15 years now. I moved up here from Illinois, and I've been with CESA ever since I moved up here in the driver's ed. My career is in driver ed, health, physical education, and coaching when I was in the schools. I'm the one who handles the driver's ed program, dealing with the schools. A little bit of background on myself. Currently, let's see, I'm the only academic or education person on the Governor's Highway Safety Commission. I am on the only academic person on the Dane County Traffic Safety Commission. I just came back from Washington, D.C. about 3 weeks ago. I was out there for 3 days. They invited the National Highway Transportation Safety Administration, invited me out to Washington to discuss driver ed standards for online classroom. CESA 2 was the first online driver's ed class approved by the DPI and also the DOT. I wrote that. I'm the one that got it approved, and it is growing and growing. CESA 2 is located in Whitewater. However, the driver's ed program is run out of Spring Green. And there's a very simple reason for that. When CESA 2 hired me, I lived in Spring Green. And they said, at the time they were on the Milton College campus, and they said, well, what about moving here? And I said, no, I like Spring Green a little bit too much. So the driver's ed program is handled out of Spring Green as a satellite office from CESA 2. We have an office space right on Highway 14 now in Spring Green, where all the programs are run out of. I've got a staff. I'm currently hiring more people because the driver's ed program is increasing. That's a little bit about me, who you're going to be dealing with, and what kind of like I bring to the table. One other thing I forgot. I'm an advisor to the board for the State Driver Ed Association. There are 4 people who are advisors. There's the representative from UW Stout, from UW Whitewater, from the DPI, and myself. So as far as involvement in what's coming down and making changes, I feel that you're going to be working with someone that's on the forefront of driver's ed. Jeff had mentioned to me about maybe mentioning some schools that you might be familiar with. So I went onto your website, checked out the Badger Conference, and I just wrote down the names of the schools in the Badger Conference that we currently provide the driver's ed program for. We handle DeForest, Edgewood, Milton, Monona Grove, Mount Horeb, Oregon, Sauk Prairie, Stoughton, and Waunakee. Most of those, the new ones are Mount Horeb. We've only been working with them for a year now. But schools like Waunakee and Monona Grove, it's been 12, 14 years that we've been doing their driver's ed program. One of the things to remember, the driver's ed program is not CESA's driver's ed program. The driver's ed program is Baraboo School District's program. It is still under the DPI, okay? Your program is approved at DPI, CESA is teaching it for you. So it is still the school district's program. Every year, somebody within the administration fills out all the DPI paperwork saying that you're going to be offering driver's ed for next year. All of that continues. However, I do it for you. Okay, so it's still a Baraboo program. CESA 2 teaches it for you. This isn't Kurt's driving school. We still report. I am a certified licensed Wisconsin teacher with a certification in driver's ed. I have 52 instructors. They also are all currently licensed through the DPI to teach driver's ed. We also, I jumped around a little bit here, we handle 42 high schools total. The ones I mentioned to you are just the ones in your conference. I included in a packet for you a brochure that we use for handouts at parent nights. We get involved a lot of times with the 8th grade coming into the high school. They have a parent night where people can get to know each other, and they walk to different tables learning about the science and the math and the driver's ed. So, we do actively pursue and partake in all of that kind of stuff on behalf of the school district. I also included in there a list of the agreement, all of the responsibilities of CESA and the responsibilities of the school. I think CESA had maybe 12 or 15 responsibilities. The school had like 3 or 4. Really what we look for is, from the school district, is a place to have the classroom. We provide the vehicles, we provide the teachers, we provide all the insurance, we do the registrations. Parents actually register right through a website that we have. We do, if anybody, and it probably has happened before, non-sufficient fund checks. That does not involve Baraboo schools at all. We take care of all that. So really what we look for from the high school or from the school district is a place to have the class, lights, technology if there's a computer in there, a smart board, something that our instructor can use instead of hauling that kind of stuff, from location and keeping it in their trunk of their car. We take care of now, there's some involvement between driver education, some direct involvement between driver education and the state DOT. And I'll say DOT/DMV. There's some involvement, some links, some connections between the two that have just started. We take care of all that stuff for the school district also. If any parent calls a school and says, I have a question on driver's ed, we just ask the school district, have them call this phone number in Spring Green, to get answered. We don't want the school to have to answer any of the questions. We'll take care of all of that. I will tell you that when things first make the change, sometimes the community's a little bit confused. They've heard this, they've heard that, they aren't really sure what's going on. You will get some calls initially from parents just needing clarification, direction. You just send all those right to us. Usually after about a year, you won't hear anything more from any parents on driver's ed because they're gonna know who to call, what website to go to, things like that. So, the cost of our program for the classroom and behind the wheel is $400. The only thing the parents have to pay additional to that is any money they pay to the DMV, because there is a fee for the students to get their permits, and they deal strictly with the DMV on that. We don't get involved. And then there's a fee to get the actual driver's license. They deal with the DMVs on that. But the cost for the classroom and the behind the wheel is $400. The online option is going to be made available to any of the students where they could. They've got the option of taking a traditional classroom environment or taking the class online. The cost of that is $425. Okay, so it's $25 more for that. At this point in time, for some reason, I don't know why, there's not a driver's ed textbook that's online. So we literally mail out textbooks to all the students, and then they mail them back to us. Currently, I have 10 online teachers teaching our online program. This year we'll probably put in the neighborhoods of 1,400 students through just online. And that's in addition to probably 120 classrooms that we have around the area. So right now, CESA, we're the largest provider of driver's ed in the state of Wisconsin. So does anybody have any questions that I've missed or you want a clarification of, or?
I got two here.
Sure.
When these classes, are these during the school day, after school, before school, during the summer, on Saturday? How does that mesh in along with your scheduling with the students?
The way I work it is however the school district wants to set it up. Because out of my 42 schools, I would say there's not two that are identical. Because I'd like to go into the school, the administration, say, how do you want driver's ed to work? And they say, well, we would like the classes to be after school, before school. River Valley does classes before school at what they call a 0 hour. So the kids get to school, take driver's ed, and then go to their locker, and then they start the day that way. So I don't dictate and say, okay, now Baraboo, you're gonna have classes here and here, and this is how it's gonna work for you. I don't like doing that. I would rather say, how do you wanna work it? And then I work it out of my end to meet your needs.
Gary, I think what we would look at doing for next year would be having the courses offered before school and after school. Students have already scheduled for classes next year. And we would just take that year by year to see, you know, how we wanted to look at it down the road.
And we could use our early release Wednesday time too for some of that instruction.
Okay. One more question.
Yeah.
What percentage of students right now take driver's ed? About half of you, was it about half?
Yeah, I would say
And the rest take a commercial?
a little bit over, just a little over half.
Okay, and what, on districts around here that have no programs at all? How many are there? You have 42?
Yeah,
And the only mentions as far as real close would be Sauk and maybe DeForest. The rest of them are scattered a little bit more, but what about like Reedsburg, Dells?
Reedsburg still has their own program. I'm unfamiliar with the Dells. CESA 2 runs from, say, like the River Valley all the way across to, we do not include Milwaukee. So that's why you got the schools kind of spread out. And the ones that I had listed there being the Badger Conference. But, you know, we have DeForest, we have Verona, so I already mentioned Stoughton, McFarland, Jefferson. The only school, I would say, in the Madison area that I'm aware of that does not have driver's ed is the Madison Public Schools. They just washed their hands of it clean years ago. However, they contacted me about 2 weeks ago. I'm meeting with them next Wednesday because I want to bring it back. Offer it. But they're going to be offering it on an after-school type thing, not part of the school day.
And the $400, that comes from student fee, or is that from the
Parents. The parents' fee for driver's ed would be $400. Our program, we do not bill the school anything, the school district. And I believe we don't have I know Jeff asked me, and I checked with my office, we haven't put together our stuff for next school year yet, because we normally don't send that out until the April timeframe. But you'll get, the agreement that you sign will be that the page and a half that I had included in here, plus it'll say driver education, and the fee is $0. It'll actually put on there that will not cost the school district anything. So the parents are the ones that fund the driver's ed for their students.
Hypothetically then, if the board decides to enter into an agreement for these services and we only have 5 kids that sign up for whatever reason, what is the district's obligation? Are you gonna offer the service to 5, or do you have a minimal amount that you would say we're not gonna offer the program?
The numbers I would like, as far as the minimum, is 12 to 15 in a class. When we first start with a school district, Mount Horeb, as an example, the very first class we taught there had 6 kids.
Okay.
Now, I've been doing this long enough time to realize that, okay, it was brand new, and the parents weren't sure what was going on, so we taught class with 6 kids. That was last summer, summer of 13. And so we taught a class of 6 kids. The class we just started in January, after school, we ended up breaking it into 2 classes of 27 apiece. So now the numbers are fine. As far as obligation, you are under no obligation to guarantee so many students take the program. They have an option just like they do now. They have the option of going through your school program or going elsewhere. They still have the same option. You are not under any obligation whatsoever to say, okay, Kurt, we will guarantee you so many kids. In a school like Baraboo, personally, I don't feel very concerned about 6 kids in a class. I don't see that happening. The first time, and I tell school boards, last year if you put 100 kids through, the first year you go with me, you'll probably put through 50 or 60, maybe 70, because of the confusion. Then it's going to build right back up again. And most of the time, it has actually exceeded what they used to do back when they had the program themselves. Yes?
You know what your pass and fail rate is, first time and second time taking the exam?
The state of Wisconsin does not, not until right now have they been able to check that. Currently, when I said there's a new program going on now between the schools and the DOT and the /DMV, now we have a way to track a student's pass or failure all the way down to the individual teacher who taught that student. Up until now, that capability wasn't there. The only way we could tell is by talking to a kid that in the, in the hallway. Hey, did you pass? Yes, I did. Okay, that's good. But now we have the ability to not only check, so a student from Baraboo who takes the class at Baraboo High School through CISA and who drives with John Jones, who fails the test, we know who taught the classroom. The state does. Who taught the classroom, who taught the behind the wheel to that student at Baraboo High School. And that is a program that the DOT just now is starting. And it's just now starting, so all the kids right now who are completing are starting to be put into that system, so we can check that kind of stuff out. But prior to now, it was just somebody's opinion on, whether so-and-so had 70% passing. There's no way to track it. And Wisconsin's the only state that does that right now. Tracks that kind of information.
So if they've passed the driving test but not the written test, what happens then? They have to take just part of it over? They don't have to take the whole thing over, do they?
Okay, there's different components for driver's ed. The state requires anybody under the age of 18 to have classroom and behind the wheel. Then there's also a state permit test. The permit test is the same test that if your license was expiring and they said, okay, you have to come in and take the test, it's the same test. Okay, so a student could pass the driver's ed classroom, pass the driver's ed behind the wheel, go to get their license and fail at the DMV. That can happen. Do they take driver's ed over again? No. They've got a choice of either rescheduling and taking it again, because the DMV will say to them, okay, here's how you did. You don't park very well, and you don't turn the car around very well. So if I were you, I'd practice with your parents and then come back. Okay, that's what they'll do if they fail the test at the DMV to get their actual license. Okay? Is that clear to everybody, or?
Well, his question, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Mortimer, but your question was in regards to the written test, correct?
With the written or road, either one.
Which they're not gonna be behind the wheel unless they have temporary license, which would have been passing the temporary test.
Which would have been passing the state test.
Correct. So they're not behind the wheel unless that happens.
Correct. They have to pass a state test to get that permit to drive with us or with their parents. They have to pass that state test.
The written test.
Pardon?
A written test.
A written test. A written test. Now, we are authorized to actually to give that written test in class. So if a student takes the written test in class at Baraboo High School and fails it, the teacher can give that test to that student again. But they cannot get their permit until they pass that test. And as soon as they pass the test, that means they get that they get their permit, which will allow them to drive with us or with an instructor.
Can you define the eligibility for the program?
The state requirements are 15 and a half to get their permit. That's a state law. 16 to get their license. That's a state law. Now, the day that they get their permit, the state imposes a 6-month wait period. So if somebody gets their permit on the day of their 15 and a half birthday, legally, they can get their license on their 16th birthday, because there's a 6-month waiting period. If a student turns 15 and a half today, but doesn't go until March 1st to get their permit, that 6 months starts at March 1st. So then they won't get their license on the day of their birthday, their 16th birthday. That's a state-imposed regulations. Now, there is also no minimum age to start driver's ed. I don't like that. There's no minimum age written anywhere. The minimum age that I and CISA uses is 15 before they can sign up for driver's ed. That's my policy. But nowhere does it say how young, there's no minimum age. I look at it as being an educator saying, okay, so if somebody comes in when they're 14, takes driver's ed, they can't even get their permit for a year and a half. They're gonna forget about everything. So what's written in our websites is you have to be 15 to start the class.
And do they have to be a Baraboo School District student to start your class? If we were to enter in an agreement with you?
That would be up to Baraboo School District. And the reason I say that is that I have a couple of schools, one being Edgewood, who only wants Edgewood students to take our driver's ed at Edgewood. We say, okay. Lake Geneva only wants Lake Geneva students to take the CISA program at Lake Geneva High School. Middleton, on the other hand, we have students from the Madison schools, from Madison West and Memorial. Some of them live actually closer to Middleton High School than they do to the high school they go to. They have taken our classroom at Middleton High School. So I would say to the school, you know, you work in agreement with us, to you, you know, do you want to offer this where a student at Reedsburg that might live close to your area comes here? That would be up to you.
Wouldn't that depend on class size?
It would depend on class size.
Well, I guess my question was, my intention was
Yeah.
to get an answer to the question of, we have someone in the community who's 17 years old, is not enrolled in any school, okay? They want to take our program, or they want to take the CISA 2 program. Is there anything that would prevent them
Yes.
from taking it?
They have to be enrolled in high school.
Okay, that answers my question.
Sorry, yeah.
But they
Thanks.
could be enrolled in a virtual high school charter.
If they are enrolled in a virtual school, they live in your school district, they would be eligible according to the DPI.
We have many families that are homeschooling.
Same thing. If they are within your district and they are homeschooled, they are allowed, I believe, to take a course at the school that they cannot get through their homeschooling. Driver's ed is one that they cannot get through their homeschooling. We put maybe 20, 30 homeschoolers, you know, through a year, throughout our whole area.
Is this a yearly contract, or is this, what kind of?
If you sign the contract and absolutely nobody signs up for driver's ed, I'll probably give you another contract for next year. If nobody signs up for driver's ed, I might say to you, listen, guys, you know, we'll do it, but, you know, we'll offer online too, you know. So it's not something that you're just saying to me, to CISA 2, yes, you can teach our driver's ed program. If nobody signs up for it, there might be some day when I'm gonna say, listen, I can't, you know, I can't do 6 or 8 kids. I've been doing it for 2 years now. I've never had that happen though.
But it doesn't make a difference if somebody signs up or not. It still doesn't cost the school district anything.
No, no. No, it wouldn't cost the school district anything.
Would anyone like to make a motion in regards to the subject at hand?
We can wait till we get to the contract, there's an action there.
We don't have a contract currently, do
Yeah, it's later on the agenda.
we? Oh, okay, why don't we wait for that?
Oh, under new business? Okay.
Okay, any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you
Okay,
for being
thank
here
you.
tonight, Kurt.
Under reports, we have the referendum building project update, and we're gonna deal with Al Bierman Elementary and Jack Young Middle School, so we have the Dan and John's show tonight.
I missed it. Did you do something funny?
John, this would have been a good opportunity for zero
You know what, I got it
you
out
know,
in the car. I went from west to my school over at Abe, and I didn't have time to change, and you should have seen the looks I was getting. I look good.
We'll talk today about Al Behrman and Jack Young Middle School. Do it a little different than we did last time. This is the existing configuration of the school as it sits currently. So,
Right now, right here is the current office. This is where the secretary sits, and anytime someone wants to go through the front door right here, they have to buzz to get in. We can look on this little 2x2 video to see who it is, which is actually pretty challenging because the sun in the morning is coming this way, so it gets pretty interesting. So the big thing you can talk about later on is safety. That is a safety concern.
just like a lot of our other buildings, we buzz them in and then we assume they're gonna come to the main office and talk about whatever business they have to talk to. But we know that probably doesn't happen in every instance. Someone knows where the child is, they're just gonna go down to classroom 12. So with the safe and secure, we'll have them make contact with somebody from the office. Now we can flip that. So now, we just turned it upside down, just to be fun. Now you come in, you buzz in the same way, come in the vestibule here. These doors would be locked, so any parent or visitor come in would have to come into the reception area and talk to John, his secretary, or somebody in the office staff to state why they're there and what they need to get accomplished while they're there.
Could you go back one? This one, I wanna show you before and after. So currently, right now, you can see where we enter in. These are some offices right here. The secretary, like I said, this is where we're located, and the nurses area is actually here. We also, in this area, is where we dispense our medication, because we don't have a full-time nurse with us, and so we're doing that right out in the open area. So if you flip to the next one, coming back to this, you're gonna see a little bit different setup. Again, the people that we are transplanting from this area for our officers are gonna be, we created 2 rooms now before this, and creating a hallway here. So now we'll have 2 offices here to take the 2 people that we're moving, which is our school counselor, our school psych, and also our speech and language person. And which was previously our over here now, our nurses area will now be located over in this area. So what's really nice about this is all the medication can be stored in there. If we have a child that's sick, we'd be able to have a visual of them instead of potentially having that person laying down in a room across the hall, which isn't the best situation. And this was all done after the fact. Originally, when the architects came in, they talked with me and a few other key staff members, and then they talked to our staff, then they came back and drew some pictures, and then I'll be honest, they came to present it to you guys, and I'm like, well, like a little kid, why does East get a nurse's office next to their regular office. So at that point, we sat back down again, and he was very excited to redraw the plans and resubmit it, and I ended up getting our nurse's office right there located with us. So the nice thing is, it was a lot of give and take and working together to get where we are right now.
John?
Yeah.
So there's the entrance and that, entrance area, secure area. Then there's your reception.
Yep.
And then is that you next then?
Originally, it was supposed to be me next,
Mhm.
but my secretary wanted more distance from me. So, the shower, I don't know why. And so we put the nurse's office in here, because I'll be honest, most of the time, she's the one handling that, and also handling the medication, keeping an eye on it. So we put the nurse's office here, and then moved my office even further down.
Okay.
There's a hallway here that will connect us.
Okay.
So John actually gave up office space to reconfigure the office suite to put the nurse in there.
Okay.
This is kind of a 3D visual, what that space will look like. We'll add a couple windows in here so that the office can see, have a better line of sight for any of the public coming in before they buzz in, so, you'll see. This is the configuration of the existing parking lot. Right now, anybody that's been down at the beginning of the day or the end of the day will know that this is just a total congestion. People trying to come in, come out, people turning left, people turning right. You have a street up here, it's not an actual T or, squared intersection, so it's offset. So it really makes a mess. So, now it's hard to see, but one of the things that they're gonna do is push this parking lot out farther to give us a few additional spaces, but then you'll have an island, and then you'll have the parents come and do a turnaround so they can drop their kids off all along the sidewalk. They'll have what's called like a little pork chop island here. It's just gonna kinda force people when they get to the end of the parking lot to steer their car to the right. And we'll have somewhere in there, right turn only. We're talking to the city, and they said that'd be awesome, they can do that. So really what you're gonna want people is they can come in from any one of the 3 directions, but once they drop off and leave, they're really gonna head right only. Now, some are probably gonna try to wanna go up there, but, the hope is that they go south.
And this became a major safety area right here. I mean, over the years, in the short time that I've been there, we've had some close calls where kids are running out into the parking lot, or parents are pulling in or pulling out and are driving too fast and potentially hitting somebody in the crosswalk. Our crossing guards, I mean, they should get hazard pay for what they have to endure out there sometimes, with the way people are driving and the decisions. And it's chaos, and it really is. And we talk to the city officials, the police department, to try to come up with solutions. And that's kind of the best solution we came up with, trying to direct the flow of traffic. So traffic comes down, pulls in, comes around, the drop off is right along the sidewalk, and then they have to take a right. So is it the best of the situation that we are dealt with? I mean, in the end, you have a major intersection right here that's wide open and it's confusing. And there's not much as a district that we can do about that. We just have to deal with the hand that we're done.
Besides being more convenient, maybe to take that right turn, why would somebody say, hey, I want to go down that street? Why wouldn't they want to? What would stop them from doing it? Nothing's going to be able to stop them, really. I mean, you can have a sign, but, sometimes signs are meant for the other guy, not necessarily to be. That's also the intent of like that pork chop alley, because you're not going to come out of the parking lot and face straight, so it's easy to turn left. You're actually going to be like on a 45-degree angle, so I mean, if you want, you can, but I mean, it's going to be veering out into traffic and taking.
As of right now, there's gonna be signage.
And there'll be signage, and then, like I said, that
I
island.
say,
kind
don't
of
do
protect
this,
the
or you're
traffic.
gonna get a $500 fine or something.
Whatever the city wants to impose.
You couldn't put cones there, could you? So they had to turn right? Does that make any sense?
The way my understanding is, how that's gonna be designed is, when they're pulling out of our parking lot, there's a concrete island there that is gonna be pointing them this way. So what they're gonna have to do is they're gonna take their car, point this way, and then they're gonna have to go out and around if they wanna take a left. To be honest, will it happen? It will happen.
Somebody will.
It will, but,
Or the first person that's on the driveway,
You know,
the first driveway they come to, everybody's gonna pull in, back out, and go the direction they wanna go. So
Well,
that'll be the
there'll be
first
houses,
complaint
not-
will be the neighbor that says, hey, Now I got 50 cars a day pulling into my driveway.
Potentially it could happen.
It's the city's problem.
They're not gonna call the city, they're gonna call John.
That's what they'll do.
So then a couple other projects that are gonna take place at west, or east side, I guess it is, where the bus turnaround is, we'll crack fill, seal coat, and then restripe that parking lot. 2 sections of road will get taken care of, and then, like all the other elementary schools, we'll do the unit ventilator upgrade with air conditioning.
So we already talked mostly about the safety and security. Also, the nice thing is with the new parking lot, how that's gonna be set up. I'm hoping that's gonna ease up a little bit of the congestion there. We have a lot of kids that are running late, 2 or 3 minutes late every day, and I think this might help alleviate that a little bit. And then the student learning, the biggest thing is gonna be having air conditioning. You know, we're constantly working on trying to create the optimal environment for students to learn. And if you're in our schools on those days where it's 95, 100, 104 degrees out, to be honest, they're just surviving instead of trying to learn at that point. So with the air conditioning and the better air handling system, we're hoping that's going to be help out with the learning that takes place in there for our students.
What about the professional development collaboration? Why is this going to improve that besides?
In the end, we can have a better environment with the air handling system and the air conditioning. Because even when you're teachers, when you're meeting in that hot and you're just sweating, potentially that would help with that. Is it a little bit of a stretch? Sure. But
No, but I mean, we need to address other issues going forward.
oh, this is just the beginning.
I know.
This is a stepping stone. So,
Sure.
these two things, there's gonna be something we're gonna have to look at for the future. For the
We're
most
taking
part, we're
steps,
focusing
but
on
we
safety.
need additional steps to be taken.
There's a few more steps to be taken.
All right.
So here we are at Jack Young. Currently, you come in and you hope whatever parking lot you go into, you're catching the main entrance, because there's really not an identifier to say this is really where the main office would be. But currently, this is the main office suite, and then this is the face room. So again, people are gonna come in, they're gonna look at a little 2 4-inch monitor to see who's smiling at them, waiting to come in. And then again, you're assuming that they're gonna come into the main office and not just head down the building and head wherever they need to go. This will be, the face room is gonna become the new main office, so you're gonna come in, we'll put a set of vestibule doors in there which will be locked. And again, our visitors will come in, meet with the secretarial staff, state their business, get a visitor's pass, and then this door again has the opportunity to be locked, so receptionists can buzz it to let them down into the hallway to go wherever they need to go. Or you can keep it unlocked if, it'll really be dependent on the individual building. But John and his staff had an opportunity to kind of look at that space, and I think they've reworked that a couple of different times.
We made quite a few changes, particularly in the area where the nurse's station is, because, where they are right now in the middle school, there's not a lot of privacy. Kids go in there to take medication or they're sick, and you've got kids coming into the office, you've got adults coming into the office. And we wanted to make that space kind of tucked away as private as possible, but also maintain, visual contact if we need to. And so we have the office here for the nurse. Students will be able to enter here without going through the main office, so that parents, kids in the office won't even necessarily see those kids who are going in. We also made some changes in this area here, adding a conference space, because that's one thing we severely lack at the middle school, having a conference room. This is not going to be a large conference room, but it's going to be an area where we can get a group of teachers together or parents in there, and then they're all huddled in my office or Dave's office.
Another thing we did too is, since this wasn't originally designed to be the main office, there's actually banks of lockers on that main corridor. We're gonna pull the lockers and redistribute them down into the 400 section or the 200 section, where there's not a lot of lockers, so we can utilize, because those kids are coming all the way down to this end. So we'll be able to put a few of those lockers down the hallways where there's limited lockers, but then we'll also be able to make it look like it's a main entrance, not just an afterthought.
And also give us the opportunity to create areas where we can display student work and
cases
that kind of thing.
Right, artwork, and that's what it looks like a main entrance. There again is the 3D version.
Still has the lockers.
Still has the lockers, those won't be This is the face room, so this is what was the main office. So obviously that's gonna be gutted, remodeled. Basically, all the equipment that's in the existing face room is gonna be repurposed to go back into that space. Again, we had conversations with John's after-base teacher, I forget her name.
Sue Strutz.
Sue Strutz, right. So she had an opportunity to express how she would like to see things. I think we met her needs where we can make it a dual-purpose room with the food portion of it and then sewing and meet the needs that she has.
Now, the only thing we have to do is fill that position, because we've been through 2 rounds of interviews already, haven't come up with a candidate yet.
But we'll be ready for that.
We'll be ready
on
for
board.
it.
And
But we'll
that's-
also be ready if we have to convert that into a different type of space, because we want to be prepared for that too.
That's the former office space.
Yeah,
That's correct.
Exactly.
And the
Well,
one
we do-
thing I'm really gonna miss though is that little skybox I have looking in the lunchroom, where I can just knock on the window and say, knock it off.
Some of the kids will be happy.
You can have a video camera, John.
Let's Skype
I
you in
mean,
there.
As far as repurposing it, I mean, you say it's not a big deal to repurpose that room? If we-
No, it's a big deal, but we are having conversations in regard to how do we plan for that now, if we have to do that.
So, I
Because
mean,
we're
it's a
gonna have
big
to
deal,
come up-
but it's not gonna be like, I mean, we're setting it up so that it could be done.
Absolutely.
But we probably want to make a commitment that we want to continue this phase program, don't we? If
We're gonna
if
have
we're
to
gonna
come up with
spend
a
that
drop
money.
dead deadline, I think, Ed, because we're gonna have to make a decision. I don't wanna get into where we were last summer, where we're hiring candidates and then losing them and hiring them and losing them, and then suddenly we come to August and, you know, we find out we're not gonna be able to fill that position, and then we have to scurry to reconvert that space. We're gonna have to pick a timeline for that and just make a decision at that time.
Yeah, we have to make a decision too, because we currently have a teacher who's teaching the skills for success. If that's going to be discontinued, we need to allow that person an opportunity to fill one of the other vacancies that he's licensed for. So this is gonna be a future board discussion, but it's gonna have to occur here pretty frequently, because we've had this position posted now since
That was
mid-year.
Christmas.
Yeah.
And we have kids who are registering right now and kind of tentatively registering, but we don't want to get into a situation where suddenly we have to re-register hundreds and hundreds of kids.
But we need to have that conversation sooner than later.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So this is kind of what I mentioned before. This is kind of going to be an identifier to, this is the main entrance. We're going to add the awning, some lettering on, raised lettering that's going to go on the outside that it just says Jack Young Middle School. Some artwork on there. We're going to put in the lights and then remove, well, actually, we're just going to take the old flagpole out, put a new flagpole in there. Flagpoles are pretty typical of your public building's main entrance, so if you're coming down Draper, there should be no question now where the main office is gonna be from
I
people
think
that are
that's a
visiting.
critical piece of this puzzle too, because we wrestle with that all the time. It's not only an inconvenience, it's a security issue for us right now, where people don't know where the main entrance is. We have a camera on this door here, but if people come to the front of the building, they may not be seen.
Like at El Behrman, we're gonna punch a hole here and add some windows, so again, there's a line of sight for anybody that walks up their windows, so the office staff. We'll have a clear vision of everybody that's entering the building before they get to the door, besides just a monitor that they'll see when they buzz in.
Now, some of these things, I'm not too sure I would consider a priority, but depending on how the bids come in and so on and so forth, if we don't have enough money, this is probably one thing we could put off for a year or two, right?
There'll be discussions, you know. I was talking to a couple different, I was talking to Al Smansky, and he said they just did a library project and it ended up coming in 25% under bid. And then he did another project and it was severely overbid, but they didn't think that the architect that did that, or it wasn't MSA, but that architect might not have done as much homework as they should have and didn't budget as well as could have been. But I mean, it's kind of both ways. Some people that you talk to are saying that bids are tight and they're bidding high, and other people are saying that, you know what, there's plenty of work out there and, you know, they want it, so.
And I don't see this as being an extravagant, I see this as being a necessity in regard to making that entrance definable for people, so they know where that entrance is.
Do we have people going to both entrances now, and we're having issues
There's some
with that?
confusion, especially people from out of town, though, you know, if there's a delivery or something, they may not know where the front of the building is.
Well, the front of the building isn't.
The front of the building.
Doesn't look like that. The front of the building looks like where the circle is.
Right. Yes.
I mean, and again, I go to that entrance, but I know that.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think most people coming in are gonna come head north on Draper, so you're gonna go to that first entrance,
Oh,
which
sure.
is Circle Drive, trying to figure it out. You know,
Yep.
some people turn around and end up in the dock, because that goes towards the back of the building, then you're, so, you know, I can see people going to multiple entrances trying to
Oh, yeah.
figure out where they're going.
Sure.
Let's see.
So they're gonna air condition, we're gonna put air conditioning in the auditorium, and then the other thing is the back parking lot by the main entrance, that's gonna be crack filled, seal coated, and then restriped. So it'll have a newer appeal, newer look to it.
John, how often do you use the auditorium?
Right now, not enough, and part of it is not a comfortable workspace. And, you know, I think moving towards the air conditioning, that's gonna be a space that's more usable, and as we look at, you know, phase 2 and phase 3 of the referendum, actually changing that space physically so it can become more of a learning area. Because it's a good space, I mean, it's sizable, we could really do a lot with it, but as it exists right now, it doesn't get used often enough.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
very much.
Moving on to the agenda item entitled Personnel Recommendations. First up, under A, approval of resignations. Hopefully all the rest of the board received the third and the fourth name to that list, the third being Liz Baczynski from Middle School Art and Marie Orendorf from Middle School Math. 3 and 4 to add to 1 and 2 that are on that list. Having provided the third and the fourth, I would entertain a motion for the approval of the resignations of Michelle Bradley from Abe Reading Specialist, Linda Heinrich from Abe Grade 3, and Liz Baczynski and Marie Orendorf from the middle school.
I move to approve the resignations of those 4.
Second.
Motion by Meering, seconded by Riley. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion thus carries. Brings us to the approval of the retirements. I see Karen Mesmer with Dr. Mesmer with us tonight. Is there anybody else that's on the retirement list that's with us tonight? Dave? Just wanted to acknowledge the years of service that we're going to accept for the approval of retirements tonight. Oh, and the correction that Karen's been here 26 years. I know it seemed like 25 last week, but.
She's flying.
Want to make sure she gets credit for an additional year. That having been said, we have quite a slate of retirements, a lot of years worth of service. I'd like to read each one of them and then ask for a motion for approval. Dr. Mesmer from the Jack Young Middle School Science in the Science Coach position, 26 years. Mary Edwards, the High School Social Studies, 25 years. Thomas Lever, Jack Young Middle School Health, and also a coach in the district for many years, 33 years total. Maureen Bula from Abe Grade 1, 31 years. Bridget Nyarko from Abe Grade 5, 24 years. Mary Sprecher from Abe Grade 3. And John, I'm just noticing you've got a lot of work to do for replacements there.
Yeah, already.
36 years for Mary Sprecher, and Victoria Weigand from the high school special education department, 18 years. I would offer a motion for acceptance of those retirements.
I will move to approve those with, and honoring all of those retirees.
Second.
Having a motion by Meering, seconded by Cummings. Discussion?
It is a-
Acknowledgement?
It is a happy day for them and a sad day for the district to lose that kind of institutional knowledge and expertise. Thank you for your service and be happy.
Any additional comments? Those thus in favor of the motion as presented signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried, and again, thank you for all your years of service. Brings us to the approval of new hires, of which we have for the high school technology education position, Ethan Engvold. Entertain a motion for that hire.
I move to approve Ethan Engel.
Second.
Having a motion by Meering, seconded by Riley. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion in long-term sub thus approved. Brings us to agenda item F. Or I'm sorry, D. The postings for the vacated positions, of which were resignations and retirements from above.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mortimer, seconded by Vedro. Any discussion for the postings? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Brings us to 2, which is the change in title, Director of Teaching and Learning. And for explanation, I will turn to Dr. Ritzenthaler.
Well, I think I included in the notes that this really reflects a more up-to-date version of what the role is. It's more encompassing, includes professional development in other areas that, if you look at positions, a lot of districts use that terminology rather than curriculum and instruction. I think you had some conversation with the board too about it.
After an interview.
So the job description will essentially stay the same. It's just a title change.
Is there any difference in licensure?
No.
No.
What about qualifications?
Same.
So the
Same
job-
qualification as the curriculum coordinator and same job requirements.
Yes.
Yes. Yep.
Just a title change.
I guess in my, all my infinite wisdom, I can't understand why we need a title change. Just because somebody else does it?
We could keep it the same, but curriculum and instruction really doesn't reflect how that position has evolved over the years. I mean, it's similar to others. I mean, we've had discussions about Danny's as well. It's not just special education. It's really about student services. So as roles evolve and change with other kinds of responsibilities, you know, I think the main one that I think of with teaching and learning is professional development.
I also like learning because we just had this discussion in our strategic planning group on personalized learning, is to emphasize learner, not student. That's what they should be, as learners. So I think the change in title is just appropriate to where we should be directing our energies and efforts as a school district.
It doesn't, I mean, getting back to your question, it doesn't change the essential
No.
functions of the job at all.
Yeah.
So you're saying it's the same job description, same qualifications?
Yes.
And job duties and everything?
Yes.
I'm still confused.
It's just a change in philosophy.
Yeah.
Title.
Was there any discussion in some of the internet surfing that I did? I found it referred to as teaching and learning instead of, I'm sorry, learning and teaching rather than teaching and learning.
I don't think there's any relevance to that. I don't know.
I've never seen it learning
No.
and teaching, but.
Well, you look where I live.
Are you sure you were in Wisconsin?
You gotta get west of Mississippi for that.
Well, director of
We could be
learning and
unique in our
teaching.
area and go that direction if you like.
I mean, yes, it is semantics, but.
Well, but it's
It
the
seems like an
acronym-
ideal time with the transition if we're gonna make a change
Right.
to do it now.
Yeah.
The
Don't have to
acronym
reprint
of
business
director.
cards, don't-
We would have to
Learning
change
and
some of the
teaching.
policies to reflect that change.
Yeah.
Stationary.
That's
I'd
okay,
I'd
we need,
avoid
we
that.
need some more work in policy.
I suppose this going, to involve a big, pay schedule jump, is it?
I think our pay range will probably stay the same, yes. It's the
All
same jump.
It's all there.
Do we anticipate a significant expense in letterhead changing?
It's electronic, so I don't think so.
I figured as much, but I just thought I would ask.
That's a good question.
Years ago, it would have been a big deal.
Yeah, it would have been, yeah.
It's not.
All right, is there a motion to, number 2?
I move to
Second.
approve the posting of Director of Teaching and Learning.
Motion by Mearing, seconded by McNevin. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Brings us to the approval of the long-term substitute positions, of which there are 2, hoping that all board members have both of those. That is for high school science, Eric Minemeyer, and high school social studies, Jacob Schreiner.
Second.
Motion by McNevin, seconded by Mearing. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Brings us to F, the approval of the contract addendum for Mr. Crane, extending the district's utilization of his services through July the 31st.
Second.
Is that Mr. McNevin that introduced?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Motion by McNevin, seconded by Riley. Any discussion? Noting Mr. Crane's 26 years needed to be added to the above number to have it add up. So if you were adding numbers from 1 through 7 and they didn't add correctly, it was because Mr. Crane's 26 may have not been added in your total to begin with. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carried. Brings us to the, let's see, we need to do G yet, right?
Right.
Retirement agreement for Mr. Crane. Again, mentioning his 26 years.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Vedro, seconded by Mearing. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thus approved. Brings us to H, the approval of the revised stipend for girls swimming. Background was provided. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Mearing, seconded by?
No, by McNevin.
By Mr. McNevin, seconded by?
Vedro.
Mr. Vedro. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Brings us to new business, the approval of disbursements. I will turn to Chair of Finance, Mr. McNevin.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by McNevin, seconded by Cummings for the approval of the disbursements as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Next up is the shared internet proposal.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by McNevin, seconded by Vedro. Any discussion?
Matt is here if you have any questions too.
Yeah, the only discussion I have is that, and again, Matt can probably fill in a little bit on, but this is all part of the internet that we use to hook up the face room that exists in the Civic Center. But this was a secondary line that was donated by Hills Wiring, so I just want to recognize Hills Wiring effort and that they had donated it out of their own expense. So.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Brings us to C, the St. Clair Agreement for Sports Medicine Coverage.
Second.
Motion by McNevin, seconded by Riley. Any discussion?
This is a follow-up on the earlier presentation of the two nurses. And I believe I had asked Jim to make sure that the documentation that they had talked about is available. I don't know if it's on the website yet, but I think it's a really important thing that our parents, especially given the conditions of what's going on in the sports world with football and all of those issues, know that we as a district are doing everything that we know how to ensure the safety of our young athletes, and that those materials should be clear and available.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thus approved. Brings us to D, the CISA 2 contract for driver's education, a discussion of earlier on the agenda. Entertaining motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Vedro, seconded by Riley, to accept the CISA 2 contract for driver's education for next school year. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Brings us to the executive closed session, of which I would entertain a motion to go into closed session as to the statutes posted. I would attempt to do that based upon roll. Mr. Cummings?
Aye.
McNevin?
Aye.
Mr. Mearing?
Aye.
Mr. Mortimer?
Aye.
Ms. Riley?
Aye.
Mr. Vedro?
Aye.
And Vodak, aye. 5 minutes. Thank you for your attendance. We are now reconvened in open session.
I move to approve the director, the district administrator emeritus contract.
Addendum.
Having a motion by McNevin, seconded by Vedro, to extend the district administrator emeritus contract to Dr. Ritzenthaler for the term of July the 1st through October 31st, 2015. Any discussion?
I am in favor of this motion. I think it indicates best practices in organizational structure, and I'm all for it.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Note Mr. Mortimer's opposition. Brings us to the second actionable item in open session, which is for the contract of district administrator, July the 1st, 2015 through June the 30th of 2016 for Lori Miller. I want to entertain that motion.
So moved.
Second.
Having a motion by Mr. Vedro, seconded by Mr. Cummings. Discussion. Mr. Cummings.
I figure it's very important because of the number of projects we have going on, the number of retirees, that the continuity of Lori here, who's been here for 4.5 years, I believe she's the best one for the job and should be hired.
And I would also like to note that we talk about the district administrator, but we also have to have a transition too with our new director of teaching and learning.
Correct. Any other comments from the board?
I really wanted to support Lori's application because I was very impressed during the interview with her answer that the most important job that a district administrator does is to build capacity. I think the fact that she's shown her ability to build capacity in our schools, in our buildings. We've got teachers who are now mentors. We've got teachers who have taken on additional responsibilities. We've got people moving up through our ranks that we're able to hire into positions of greater responsibility and greater administrative duties. I think that carrying that forward is something that will continue to build loyalty, more long-term teacher contracts like the ones that unfortunately we're seeing retire now. We'll have more people coming up who will stick with us, I hope, and who will take on greater roles. And I think that's to our benefit and to a district administrator's legacy.
I would concur with everything that's been said. I think Lori has demonstrated, and both the district and the state have recognized her expertise, and to lose her would be something, especially given the loss of so much institutional knowledge over the last several years. A great loss. She, along with Crystal, have moved this district into statewide, if not national, recognition. And she certainly has earned this title, as she will her doctorate. I think she's the best choice, and this board has made a commitment to nurture from within those who have the capacity and the professional development and the expertise and who get the credentials. I think we've done the right thing.
Okay, I would just like to say that I believe the board has done their due diligence. I believe the board has entered into and come out of a process with the best candidate. There are those that will say, how do we know we had the best candidate if we didn't go outside of the district? I can't speak for everybody else on the board, but I can say with a fair amount of certainty from my position, we have the best candidate. For a lot of the reasons that were echoed by my fellow board members, as far as continuity, as far as promoting from within, as far as nurturing our own. I think the decision the board made is an excellent one. I fully support it. I believe that the process that we went through, the interview process, the discussions that the board has had, shows that we take the position that we're in very seriously of hiring the district administrator, and I fully support Lori as our new district administrator. And the transition plan that will be forthcoming, not only for our current district administrator to Ms. Miller, but also from Ms. Miller to our new director, as Mr. Meering stipulated, Director of Learning and Teaching and Learning, whichever one it was. I'm sorry, I don't remember it anymore.
Teaching and learning.
Teaching and learning. That having all been said, having a motion and have a second on the floor, I'd like to entertain by roll call those in favor of the motion as presented. Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. McNevin?
Yes.
Mr. Meering?
Yes.
Mr. Mortimer?
No.
Ms. Riley?
Yes.
Mr. Vedro?
Yes.
And Vodak, yes. Welcome our new district administrator by a board vote of 6-1. With that having been said, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.